It'd be good to know. If you've had success with talking to agro dealers, you can share in the next few minutes before we kickstart, because that's really the key to unlocking those values that we've been talking about all these months. Okay, I reckon nobody has. Nobody has. What's the bottleneck? You reckon if there's a bottleneck you want to share? Anything at all? What is stopping you from making that move? Oops. Aneva, go ahead, please.
Okay, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Okay, in my part, I've had contact with farmers, talking to farmers, encouraging them about soil testing and all that. They need to carry out soil testing.
Sorry, say that
So
again.
I say, on my part, I have had interaction with farmers,
Okay.
emphasizing the need for them to carry out soil testing and all that.
Okay. And
So
what's the
I've not
response?
really had contact, let's say, with agro, that maybe those that sell for agrochemicals and all, but I've had contact or people that are,
What was their response to your interaction?
yeah, some of them were really ignorant about soil testing. I had to give them a little information about it, the implication of not carrying out the proper soil test. So they look
Okay.
forward to carrying it out subsequently.
Okay. I'm going to hand it over to Nanshal, and then maybe we can have this conversation in private. Just text me if you want to talk more about this. Maybe we can brainstorm. Nanshal, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. And today, or before I go further, let me introduce myself. My name is Nanshar, and I'll be taking you through this particular topic for our today's session, which is mitigating post-harvest losses. Mitigating post-harvest losses. Yes. Uh, every farm activity, or let me say the end result of every farm operations, is an optimal harvest. After land preparation, everything and everything that is involved, what the farmer is expecting at the end of the day is a good harvest. Harvest is an activity that characterizes joy. When a farmer have a very good harvest, he or she will be very, very glad, because that is the end result. It's like somebody who is writing jam, and you are told that you scored above the cutoff point. You'll be very, very glad. You'll be very, very glad. or for somebody who just graduated, and probably there is a particular course that is giving such a person serious headache. If you get an A in that course, you'll be very, very glad. Same thing applies to harvest. Though there are other things after harvest, like marketing, but what the farmer is interested, the first interest of the farmer is a good harvest. Before I go further, I would like to share my screen. Let me share my screen. I think somebody just rose up her hand. Shuaibu Aisha too. Oh, is it a mistake? Shuaibu Aisha too, you raised up your hand. We just started the lectures. We've not treated anything much. Yes, speak out, Shuaibu Aisha too. What do you want to say?
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
My question is not about the course. So there is a field trip today in Kubwa.
Yes, hello.
Yes.
Can we discuss that privately? Let's discuss
Okay,
that
sir.
privately after the meeting. Thank you very much. Yes. So let me share my screen. Excuse me.
Nanshal, when you share, you have to put it on landscape mode.
Okay, okay,
Yes.
okay.
You are muted if you are speaking. So, Nanshal, you
Okay.
have to mute. Yes. Okay.
Yes. Can you see my screen?
Yes. We can.
Okay. I'm just
So
trying
you
to.
Need to press the play. Okay, yeah, that. Put it on full screen mode and landscape. If you tap at the edge of your screen, which is on the right hand side, it will go to the next slide. Or if you swipe like that, it will also move. It looks like it's not moving, right?
Yes, it's not moving. I'm coming.
Okay, send me the file and I will share for you on my side.
Okay, okay. Okay.
Sorry, guys. Let's exercise some patience while we get this thing sorted out. A matter of minutes now. Um, so while we're doing
I
that,
just shared it with you.
okay, is there anyone else who maybe had some interactions with the agro dealer as we discussed? As you know, this is uh, a very important component um, of a pathway looking forward, in terms of building a portfolio. And I'm not certain why this is not getting the seriousness that I expected it will have. So does anyone care to educate me as to what are the blockages? Naturally, I'm trying to upload this so I can share the tab.
Okay, okay.
It will just take less than 1 minute actually.
Okay.
Anyone wants to educate me on what their challenges are engaging with agro dealers? Because it's really strange. Out of over 190 something people, if I'm not mistaken, who are supposed to participate in this, it's 120. There's only one person that has got a feedback on how it's going. So it's either that you are not talking to agro dealers or something else. I know Mary also shared her feedback last time. I think it's Mary, right? Uh, that there's a language barrier, and I gave a suggestion afterwards. Okay, Nansha, please go ahead. We'll talk about this agro dealer thing later. Nansha, please. Nansha, you're muted if you are speaking.
Mitigating post harvest losses. Like I said earlier, one of the most interesting parts of farming activity is when a farmer have a very good harvest. Though there are other activity like marketing of such farm produce that also brings return to the farmer. But the first contact or the first excitement, what gives joy to the farmer is when the farmer have a very good harvest. Now, in our topic for today, we said mitigating post-harvest losses. Mitigating post-harvest losses. It is clear that there are losses after harvest. There are losses after harvest. Now, mitigating post-harvest losses. This implies that we have to look for a way to reduce these losses. These losses are there. They are challenges that is staring the farmer in the eyes. The farmer needs knowledge on how to mitigate these losses, which means these losses have the capacity to render every activity you have done on the farm down to zero. So the need to mitigate these losses is very, very important. We cannot look at mitigating post-harvest losses. It's like we are trying to prevent, no, still the first slide, here. We cannot look at mitigating post-harvest losses without first looking at what post-harvest is on its own. Next slide. Post-harvest management. We have to look at what post-harvest management is. From there, if we can have a little knowledge of what post-harvest management is, we can now begin to understand how to mitigate these losses that takes place after harvest. From the word post-harvest, just the way someone will say post-primary, any education after primary school. Post-harvest, what are those things that takes place immediately after harvest or at the point of harvest? That is what we mean by post-harvest management. Now, what is post-harvest management? Next slide. What is post-harvest management? Can somebody try to tell us what post-harvest management is? Can you try? Can you just attempt? If you can, please kindly raise up your hand. Yes, Anebet, then
Okay, thank you so
speak
much,
out.
sir. So when we talk about
Yes,
post-harvest management are all the techniques put together to ensure that our produce are preserved after we have
that's very good. Is there anybody that can try?
harvested. So because
Yes, yes. Mm.
the produce are going to
I can't hear you. It's like your line is freezing. Your line is freezing. Can anybody try? There's no harm in trial. Yes. Someone just Adara Mary, please try.
All right, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Post-harvest management is the techniques or method of storing or managing the harvested crops after the farmers have harvested them in the farm. So the way of storing them, of keeping them for future purposes.
That's very good. That's very nice. Lower your hand. Thank you very much for this insight. When we talk of post-harvest management, we talk of a lot of activities that happen immediately after harvest or at the point of harvest. That particular activity, you should understand that harvesting itself is part of post-harvest management. Harvesting of the matured grain, fruit, or any agricultural commodity is also part of post-harvest management. So, next slide, I will say post-harvest management is a system of harvesting. Next slide, please. Post-harvest management is a system of harvesting, processing, transporting, and handling. It also involves storing of agricultural commodity after harvest. Look at it critically. is a system of harvesting, processing. This type of processing we are referring to primary processing, transporting, that's the logistics part of it, which also involve how you handle this farm produce and also how you store them after harvest. It is no longer news that most times during harvest or at the point of harvest, the price of agricultural commodity are usually very, very low. At harvest, the price of most agricultural commodities are very, very low. Just imagine when a farmer spends so much to cultivate his or her soil, and after harvesting, he or she discovers that the price of this particular farm produce in the market is very low. Most times, farmers don't like to sell. Even when they sell for immediate needs. To make the immediate needs, to meet the immediate needs they are facing at the moment. Farmers have derived methods of what? Storing their farm produce. You cannot store if you do not harvest properly. You must have seen farms where harvest is done poorly. Probably you will notice that the person that goes after the farmer to look for leftovers tend to get more. What am I referring to? Especially on groundnut farms. If you look at some groundnut farms, you see there are people that goes to look for maybe leftover matured farm produce. So if harvest is not properly done, the farmer can lose a lot of his matured farm produce on the field. And there are lots of other activities that characterize this particular subject matter, like processing, transportation, and also storing. In processing, we have a lot of processes. Some of you are already aware of these processes, like threshing. Let's say for grains, threshing, winnowing, drying. These are all activities that characterize post-harvest management. For some commodities such as coffee and cocoa, post-harvest activity may include drying and fermentation. In cocoa, there is how you do fermentation. All these are post-harvest activities. For coffee, there is how you dry it. These are all post-harvest activities. Next slide, please. Major steps in post-harvest management. There are lots of steps. When we talk about post-harvest management, the steps are so many, depending on the crop or depending on the farm produce. Though there are farm produce that have similar post-harvest management. You will not expect maybe somebody who have maybe a mango orchard to be engaged in the same post-harvest management like somebody who grew maize. These are two different things. That is why I said there are some farm produce that have similar post-harvest management techniques. In the course of these studies, we are going to look at some of such farm produce with similar post-harvest techniques. Or we'll look at the major one that is affecting us. That most times when we go to the market, we are always curious on buying a good farm produce. Major steps involved in post-harvest management. One, harvesting. Next slide. Harvesting. We have harvesting, we have threshing, we have drying, and we have storage. These are very, very important. These are one of the important ones that I just picked out. Harvesting. I said your method of harvesting will determine if you are not too careful, you are going to leave a lot of farm produce behind. If you are not sensitive enough, if you don't engage the right labor, if you don't engage the right machines, you are going to leave a lot of farm produce behind. And from there, you have started recording post-harvest losses on the field because your harvest was poorly done. You can imagine leaving behind like 20% of yam tubers in the soil because it was not properly dug, or leaving behind maize, matured maize on the farm because it was not carefully sorted out. So if you are not careful, you will begin to experience these losses at the point of harvest. We have harvesting, we have threshing, we have drying, we have storage. Let's look at all these one after another. First of all, we'll look at storage. Harvesting. Next slide. Harvesting. We'll look at harvesting. What is harvesting? What is harvesting? We want to look at it. What is this harvesting? Harvesting is the process of removing your farm produce. You are removing it. You are collecting it. Next slide. You are removing it. Harvesting is the process of removing your farm produce. E.g., it can be cereals, it can be what? Fruits, it can be vegetables, it can be what? Root crops, like tubers. From the plant when matured. If it is not matured, I don't know what it is called. Because I know that cannot be harvesting. Because under the context of post-harvest management, if we really want to mitigate post-harvest losses, then we must harvest our crop when they are matured. At the time they are ready for immediate consumption, sale, or storage. Somebody cannot just go to his farm and start harvesting when he knows that he is not ready for either of these three. Either for immediate consumption, or for sale, immediate sale, or storage for future use, or for future sales. Harvesting is the process of removing your farm produce, e.g. cereals, fruit, vegetables, and root crops from the plant when matured. When matured, that is the key word. At the time they are ready for immediate consumption, sale, or storage. When you go to your farm and start harvesting after planting, and you know that your farm produce or your crop is not ready for harvest, you start harvesting. What you are doing under post-harvest management, you are not harvesting, you are destroying the farm. And you are going to incur a lot of loss. Except if you grow that particular plant to maybe to feed animals, then of course your purpose of planting it will be achieved because you did not plant it to harvest the matured grain, cereals, fruit, vegetables, or its tubers. Is there anybody that have anything to say at this point in time? You have a little insight. I can give you like 15, 30 seconds to say it. If you have a different view on what harvest is. Okay, I continue. Our next point is threshing. Threshing. What is threshing? Those who live in the villages or those who are privileged to visit the villages, you must have seen how manual threshing is done. Recently, farmers are beginning to employ the use of mechanical method in threshing. But one act is very, very important. In threshing, care must be taken not to destroy the grains, especially when you are threshing millet, when you are threshing rice, when you are threshing maize, when you are threshing, let's say, groundnut, when you are threshing cowpea, care must be taken not to destroy the seed. Because when you over thresh, there is that high tendency that you will end up destroying the seed. There is that high tendency you might destroy the seed. When a seed cracks, it's no longer a seed. It's no longer a seed because it's dead. A seed is something that is living, something you can plant to continue the life cycle of that particular plant. But when you cannot plant it, it cannot germinate. It's no longer a seed. It's a grain. So threshing is the act of separating the grain from the plant. Next slide. Threshing is the act of separating the grains from the plant. These operations may be carried out in the field or on the threshing floor. Let me explain this. This operation may be carried out on the field. You must have seen a lot of people after harvest, they thresh it on the field. Where they harvest it, that's where they thresh it and take it out. While some, they have a prepared surface, a prepared floor somewhere within the farm or slightly away from the farm. And in most cases, that is where gathering of farm produce is done. People always look for hard surfaces where they gather their farm produce, free from pests. Of course, when they gather it, they try as much as possible to secure it so that pests cannot reduce the quantity. Because what pests does is they don't just destroy, they also reduce the quality and quantity. Take, for instance, somebody that harvests maybe sesame, the one we normally call reedy. By the time you gather it somewhere, and all those ants with big head decide to locate where you gather this sesame, they will start picking it one after the other, one after the other. You might think they are not doing you damages. What they are doing is more because they are making you to lose the quantity. Probably everything, maybe what you have at that point is maybe 100 bags. If you are not very careful, if you are not careful, they might make you lose more than 10 bags. You might lose more than 10 bags, depending on the period under review, the period of this ant, picking one seed after another, taking it into their holes. In the case of maize, when rodents, vertebrate pests like rats find their way into the store or into your temporary gathering point or grass cutter, they will eat as many as they can. In fact, rats are so annoying that what they do is they locate the embryo, the embryonic part. That is where because that place is sugary. I don't know who told them that that place is sugary, but that is the part they destroy. They eat it up. They keep breaking and eat. Before you know, you are left with broken maize. And when you take this maize to the market, I'm telling you that the price of that particular maize is going to drop because it's no longer appealing. Something has happened to it. So this threshing can be done by hand or with the help of machines. You must have seen women using local mortars, to pound. In the case of maybe millet, sorghum, using local, manually pounding. What they are doing is they are threshing. They are trying to separate the grain from the plant. And of course, after separation comes winnowing. They will need to separate further. One thing that is very, very important in threshing is whatever system is used, it is very important that threshing is done with care. If you do not employ threshing with care, you are bound to destroy your seed. So you can see how delicate threshing is. This is something that you do, and if you are not careful on how you do it, you are going to destroy the seed. Drying. Next slide. Drying. Drying. I need somebody to tell me about drying. Ladies, from the ladies, please. Drying. What do you understand by drying? Yes, Aisha too. Aisha too. Yes,
Good
good
morning,
morning.
sir.
Tell us what you understand by drying.
For me to understand, is the process of removing moisture from our harvest.
Okay. Thank
Drying is the process of removing moisture from our moisture from our harvest by either um direct constant with sun, using sun. We have
Yes,
different process of drying. We
yes,
can use sun to dry. We can use dehydrator
yes,
to
yes.
dry.
Oh, Thank you for mentioning dehydrator. Thank you. Yes,
Yes.
that's very good. Okay, lower your hand. Juliet Isaac, please. The floor is yours. Dry. I'm struggling to hear you, Juliet. I'm struggling to hear. Can you speak directly into your mouthpiece? Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Next hand. I can see the next person. I think Mary. Am I correct? No, an Ebet in the dry. An Ebet in the. I hope I pronounce your name very well. Apologies if I don't. An Ebet. Okay. Let me proceed. Maybe an Ebet. If you are muted, we can't hear you. You need to unmute and speak. Okay. I have Amusat Muhammad, Amusat, drying. What do you understand by drying?
Okay, good morning, everyone. So,
Good morning.
drying is the process of removing the moisture content from our crop or our product, and the purpose is to what to extend the shelf life of our
Yes,
product or to store for future use. Because without drying, bacteria and mold they can quickly attack the farm product because of the high water content in some of the agricultural product.
but that's very good. Thank you very much for that great insight.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Uh drying, you know, somebody talked about dehydration. Yes, it's also another form of drying. Yes. Drying is the removal of moisture. When you are removing moisture, you are removing moisture from farm produce or from anything, you are drying that thing. But in this case, in post-harvest management, we're talking about farm produce. Of course, drying can take place in a lot of things. But because we are centered on post-harvest management, so we are going to focus our mind on farm produce. So drying is the removal of moisture from the produce until it reaches a safe moisture content level. Try to understand me. Next slide. Removal of moisture from the produce until it reaches a safe moisture level. Every farm produce have its safe moisture content level. Though there are some that have similar moisture content level. That is why farm produce are classified into two.
Marshall, We cannot hear you anymore.
Okay, okay. Can you hear me now? I guess yes. A call
Yeah,
just
yeah,
came
yeah.
into this. Yes. The perishables contain higher moisture content. So a lot of technicality centers around water, moisture. That's why you see some like tomatoes contains high moisture content. They call them perishables. They can spoil faster or they can deteriorate faster. While you have others like maize, that when you harvest and dry, what you are doing is you are reducing the moisture content. So drying is always removal of moisture from the produce, from any material until it reaches a self moisture level. The aim of this act is to lower the moisture content in order to guarantee conditions that is favorable for storage or for further processing of the produce. Let me explain this. Most times you go to the market and you see maize, you see people will say, oh, this is new maize and this is old maize. And in the situation where they say this is the new maize, you check and you find out that the prices are different. The old maize is expensive, more expensive than the new maize. The difference in this is the moisture content. Is the moisture content. If you look at the moisture content in a freshly harvested maize, it differs from the moisture content that is in a maize that has been harvested, dried, and stored for a very long period of time. Because even in the store, there is exchange of gases that takes place that brings about moisture loss. Heat of respiration is being released in the store. From our elementary biology, plant takes in oxygen, takes in carbon dioxide. Plants takes in carbon dioxide and gives out oxygen. Seed respire. Seed respire. They are living things. They respire. They take in oxygen and give out carbon dioxide. Seed. That is why they are alive. That is why when you plant them, they will germinate. So the aim of this act is to lower the moisture content in order to guarantee conditions favorable for storage or for further processing of the produce. When you carry a maize produce that contain high moisture content, and probably you want to, maybe immediately after harvest, you will notice that maybe when you want to dry mill it, a lot of these machine operators, they will tell you that no, this maize is used to stick to the teeth of their engine or the hammer. Why? Because it contains high moisture content. Or they will tell you that, look, you cannot obtain fine particles from this because it is new maize. It is new maize. What they may not tell you is that it contains more moisture. Some will even tell you, go and buy old one and mix, or go and dry it further, so that it will be easier for them to mill. In other words, moisture drying is the removal of moisture from a biomaterial. Bio means life, material. Anything that has life, in the case of this, our topic, post-harvest management, is the removal of moisture from a biomaterial until the moisture content in the biomaterial reaches an equilibrium with the moisture content in the environment. That is drying. When the moisture content in the biomaterial reaches an equilibrium, that is a balance between that of the environment, drying is said to have taken place. An environment that has a lot of moisture, if you spray maybe a maize grain that is drier than the environment, that maize grain will absorb moisture. So no matter what, there is always the nature is trying to create a balance. The environment is drier. This particular thing you spread is going to be as dry as the moisture content in the environment. While dehydration, somebody mentioned dehydration. Dehydration is the removal of moisture from a biomaterial, from farm produce. Through the use of artificial means, you are using maybe a machine or something until that farm produce is bone dry. Dehydration, you are removing it completely. So what drying cannot achieve, dehydration can achieve even more. Let's go to our next subheading, storage. What is storage? People would like to store. What is storage? People will say, what is storage? What is this? You take your money to the bank. If that money is great, we will say you have stored it. But you say you deposit. You use a different language, deposit. But for farm produce, you said storage. What is storage? Can somebody tell me what is storage? Somebody from the mail? Can somebody tell me what is storage? On the mail, if you can't raise up your hand, please, let's be snappy. Let's be fast about it. What do you understand by storage? From the mail, raise up your hand. What is storage? What is storage from your own perspective? Mohammed Darambi, please unmute and speak. Yes, what is storage? Be fast about it. Mohammed Darambi. We are not hearing you. Unmute and speak. You need to unmute first, then you speak.
Morning, sir.
Yes, good morning, Mohammed.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Storage simply means the process of preservation or adding, although preservation of a farm produce to add shelf life to it.
Okay, thank you very much. Yaro Aliu, lower your hand. Yaro Aliu, unmute and speak.
And storage is a process of buying food produce from the farmer and bring it to the store and store it for future use.
No, storage is not the act of buying. No, please don't complicate issues. It's not the act of buying. It's not the act of buying. So, in the course of this study, you will understand what storage is, but it's not the act of buying. Godwin James Ogiri, lower your hand and speak.
Good morning, Sam.
Good morning, speak.
Storage. Storage is a process in which, let me say, storage is a art of storing the farm produce for the future purpose.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Ochai Kikilomo, Ochoi Kikilomo. Please kindly unmute and pronounce your name correctly for me, please.
Good morning, sir. My name is Kikelomo Ochui.
Okay, Ochui. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Please speak.
Okay, storage can be in different aspects. It can be in farm, it can be in devices, it can be in data, it can be in photos, it can be in system data files and all that. But in this context of farming, storage is the process of harvesting produce and thereby keeping it for future process, for future use, so that one can access and use it in the long run.
Okay. Thank you very much. But let me just take it. Storage is the act of keeping the quality of agricultural produce or materials. Next slide, please. Is the act of keeping the quality of agricultural produce or material and preventing them from deterioration for a specific period of time beyond their normal shelf life. You don't want it to spoil. You want to keep it for a longer period. You have a reason, whether it's for food consumption or it's for sale, for its marketability. You want to ensure that you keep it. Maybe probably when you harvested, it's not as expensive as you think it should be. So you want to keep it maybe for a month or two, maybe for you to figure out what to do with it. So it's the act of keeping the quality. You want to maintain the quality of agricultural produce and preventing them from deterioration for a specific period of time. You might have the specific period of time. You might say, okay, for 1 year. Somebody might say for 2 years. Somebody might say, oh, for 6 months. Somebody might say for 3 months. Whatever is done to ensure that you keep this thing in a good state, it is called storage. Beyond their normal shelf life. Beyond their normal shelf life. Now, we have talked about storage. Let's look at types of storage. Next slide. Types of storage. Types of storage. Types of storage methods include the use of the following. One, you can use bagging, pick sack. Some people call it pick bag. You can use underground storage, silo, metallic silos, or hematic storage. We want to take one particular farm produce. Let's look at it critically, something that most people like, and see how we can do justice to it to an extent. This topic, storage, is a very, very broad topic. We cannot even exhaust it in a day. Even in a week, we cannot even exhaust it because there are lots of technicalities in the store. And there are lots of different methods for storing farm produce. There are lots of different methods that are used in storing farm produce. It's either in the bag, underground storage. Underground storage is such that maybe when you dig the ground and you bury maybe a reservoir, a tank, and you decide to fill the tank with grains and you cover it. That is one simple example of using underground storage. Anything that will involve you digging the soil to store. In some local contexts that we've worked before, that RFH have worked before, especially in the Northeast, we discover that there are people that dig the ground to store their grains like millet, sorghum, for future use. What they do is that they line it with a very big trampoline. Then they pour their grains inside. And when they pour their grains, they now cover. They use a lot of chaffs to cover the top. Then they bury it. It can be there for a very long time, as long as they want it to be. But all these processes have its disadvantages if it's not properly done. We have a silo. When passing beside the road, you will see a lot of wasted, gigantic federal government structures, silos that are wasting, metallic. These are meant to store grains temporarily up to a period of time when there is need for these grains in the market. Then they can easily release it for people to buy. And you can see hematic storage. Hematic storage is just about you are trying to make everything airtight. You are trying to make it airtight. That's hematic. You are trying to control the air movement inside. That's hematic storage. Let's go to our next slide. Cowpea. Our next slide. That is slide number 17. Slide number 17. Slide number 17. Yes. Cowpea storage using pig sacks or pig bags. Pig bags. Cowpea. We all know beans. Most people, when they go to the market, they are interested. Nobody will want to buy beans that have holes in it. Nobody, under normal conditions, nobody want to buy beans that have holes. So most times, you go for the ones that have a very good physical appearance. So let's look at how it can be stored. Beans, how it can be stored using pig sack. And what is pig sack? We want to know what this pig sack is. Our next slide. Next slide. Pig sack. What is pig sack? Slide 18. What is pig sack? PICS. Pigs. It means Purdue improvised cowpea storage. So when you see the word pigs, PICS, it means Purdue improved cowpea storage. That is what it means. So don't be confused when you say here pig sack. This is the full meaning. It is just abbreviated. Next slide. The pig bag is a chemical-free hematic container composed of one outer polypropylene woven bag and two liner of high-density polyethylene 80 micron thick. It is a bag. It contains two leather inside. Let me use the word leather. Two leather inside. And this leather is very, very thick. So if you go to the market and find out that maybe you want to buy this and you discover that it has one leather, ask for the second leather. A good pig sack contains two leather, and that leather is very, very thick. They even give the thickness, that is the standard of this leather, as 80 micron thick. 80 microns thick. Those people that are into pure water production, they know better. They know better. That's why you see them, each time they are discussing sales of the pure water leather, they discuss it in microns. What is the thickness? The thickness, they discuss it in microns because they believe that it should be able to withstand breakage or leakages. Next slide. Slide 21. The Purdue improvised crop storage picks back. Slide 21. The Purdue improved crop storage pick back is a cost-effective technology for storing grain to reduce post-harvest losses. So you see, we are coming to how to reduce post-harvest losses. It is very, very effective and it is cheap compared to when you are using underground storage or when you are using maybe jerry cans or maybe you are using storage tanks or you are using silo. The pick back is very, very effective and it is cheaper. Next slide. Slide 22. You see how the pick back look like. Some of you must have seen something like this in the market. 50, there is 50 kg pick back, there is 100 kg pick back. Next slide. How do I use pick backs? How to use pick back? It is very simple, but very, very tricky. If you are not, if you don't pay keen attention, you might end up buying a bad one. And when you buy a bad one, it will affect your storability. Next slide, slide 24. Buy pick back from approved merchants. Don't buy from people that don't know how to store it. Probably they might store it where there are nails, and as a result, it might have some holes. Take the 3 picks back apart and check the 2 inner bags for holes and tears. Do not use a bag that has holes or tears. We say it is 3 bags. One, the outer one, then there are 2 leathers inside. They say you should check it properly. Check it properly. Make sure it does not have any holes. Because if it has any hole, it will affect the way you are going to store your grain. Slide 25. Ensure that your cowpea is completely dry and clean. If it is maize you want to store, ensure that your maize is completely dry and clean. When you want to use pick back, ensure. In some cases, people that are storing maize, they used to add chaffs to it. But how long can you store it with that method? If you are not careful, it might have some holes. And in the case of when it has some holes, it implies that the market value has reduced. Instead of adding value addition, you have reduced the value by wrongly storing it. Slide 26. Pour a small amount of cowpea into the inner bag. Starting gently. Don't just carry something and turn it immediately. Boom. Pour it gently. Make sure there are no air pockets at the bottom. Make sure all the airs are out. There are no air pockets at the bottom. Make sure the 2 line, the 2 inner leather are fitted together. That is what it means. The next 27. Put the 3 bags together. Fold the top of the bags inside out. Fold it inside out as they are together. As we are pouring, fold it. Continue to fill the bags with cowpea, with maize, with millet, anything, grains, with rice. Make sure no grain gets between the bags. Just make sure there are no grains between the bags. It's very, very important. Next, fill the bag far enough so that a lip contains for tying. Do not overfill it. Make sure that you leave a provision so that you can tie. Tie the first one. This pick bag offers double protection for the grain you are storing in it. Next, Slide 29. Twist the lip of the first bag tightly enough, tightly short. Fold it over and tie firmly. You can see they want it airtight. Tie it. Make sure that you twist it. You tie it very well so that air will not enter, as shown in the picture. Let's go to our next slide, slide 30. Slide 30. Slide 30. Pull the middle back up over the first one. You pull it up. Make sure that as you've tied the first one, you're going to tie the second one the same way. When you look closely in the picture, you will see the first one has been tied inside. You tie the second one outside before you pull the bag up. So this offers double protection. Double protection. Pickback is very, very easy once you follow the rules. Next slide. If you follow the rules on how to use it, you'll be able to store your farm produce for a very long time. Why are pickbacks so useful? Next slide. Why are they useful? Why are pickbacks so useful? One, they prevent losses to weevils. No insecticide or other chemicals are needed. If you go to the market and see how they use insecticide to store farm produce, you will be shocked. But with the use of pickback, no insecticide are needed or other chemicals. They are convenient for small-scale farmers and organic grain producers to use. There are people that grow organic grains. They don't use inorganic fertilizer. They use organic fertilizers, organic fortified biochar. So when they store this farm produce, their grains in pig sack, the storability is just second to none. They are reusable as long as they don't have holes. As long as you don't tear them, they are reusable. Make sure you handle them with care. Make sure you handle them with care. They cost little compared to many other storage methods that are thus affordable. They are more super affordable. Investment in pickback pays high return. The PIC technology is easy to learn and use, just the way we are talking now. Very easy to learn and use. Cowpea grain can be stored safely in pickback for a year or more. For a year or more. Let me tell you something quickly. In summary, when you are storing using a pig sack and you want to store for a very long time, try as much as possible not to suffocate the seed. I told you that seed takes in oxygen and give out carbon dioxide. They are biomaterials. They live. They are living things. That is why when you plant them, they will germinate. Do not suffocate your seed. If you are using hematic storage, make sure that after a month, open the bag so that carbon dioxide can go out. Carbon dioxide can go out so that the seed can take in oxygen, then you tie again. By so doing, you can store this seed for more than a year or two. I can store cowpea for 5 years and you plant it and it will germinate. Cowpea. Because of the technicalities in the storage mechanism, controlling the airflow, ensure that you allow the seed to breathe. Allow the seed to breathe so that when the seed breathes, it takes in oxygen, then you tie. After a month, free it. Let the carbon dioxide go out. so that the seed will not die. You must have seen a lot of cases where very good seed that have very good appearance are planted, and these seeds refuse to germinate. Some of you might accuse the laborer who is there to plant the seed may God help the laborer if it is groundnut. Some people will say the laborer ate the groundnut. Why? In the long run, you planted a seed that has been suffocated. You planted a seed that is dead. Please and please, as you advise farmers to use this kind of method, you should also ensure that you let them know that when they store it for a very long time under this condition, the seed might die. Most farmers are not aware of this. There is need after a month, after 2 months, open it up, let it breathe, then you tie again. You can allow it to breathe for a whole day, then you tie. But remember, when you allow it to breathe and it's inside the store, make sure the store is well ventilated so that air can go in and out. This topic is a very broad topic that we can take even a month to discuss this. I just pick the key points so that we will be able to understand the best way to mitigate post-harvest losses. This is for non-perishables. We also have ways to mitigate post-harvest losses for perishables. Perishables for goods, for farm produce that contain high moisture content. I think this is a topic for another day. Go out and explore. Knowledge is something that when you learn, you should practice it. You can buy one pig sack, use it in your homes, recommend you can recommend others to the use of pig sack. Let's explore. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Nigel. Thank you very, very much. Yes, I think that's a very, as you said, it's something that will require quite a lot of time to complete, because even though you were able to squeeze it into more or less 1 hour, this is quite something that should be an ongoing concern. So for the sake of buttressing what Nigel has shared, we will try and put the transcript together and share with you, so you can have like a hard copy that you can further study. And if you have any comments, you can always reach out. Please, any question? I want to sincerely apologize for starting late. Hopefully this will not happen again, but our sincere apologies for that. As you can tell, the turnout is also very low because of the late starting. We started almost 45 minutes late. Is there any final question before we wrap this up? And while you are bringing that up, some of the people I understand are on a field trip to the demo plot in Abuja, which is not a lot of people, I suppose, maybe 5 persons. So that also explains the low turnouts. But I think it's just a matter of, informing you guys late about today's session. Question, please. Thank you, Amusat. I believe there is no further question. Thank you so much, Nanshao. And I hope, okay, Nanshao, go ahead.
Yes. I would like to, for the purpose, just to give an opportunity for those who are not available today for this particular session, and for those who want like a refresher